on the topic Building New India as an Exponential Inspirator by Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar, FRS, on the occasion of 50th death anniversary of the first Chief Minister and the architect of Goa's destiny, late Bhausaheb, Dayanand B. Bandodkar. Ladies and gentlemen, let me just brush up your memory and draw your attention. 50 years back, around the same time, in the premises of Panjim Gymkhana, Bhausaheb had his last engagement. He left this premises around 8 p.m. with little uneasiness, never to return again. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the same premises for his 50th death anniversary. Friends, everybody can climb a mountain, but great are those who first build their own mountain, then climb it. We are privileged to have amongst us one such personality, Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar, to deliver the memorial lecture. I would request Shri Prasad Lolyekar, Secretary Education, Government of Goa, to escort our Honorable Chief Minister Dr. Pramod Sawant and Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar to the dais. It is said that all birds find shelter during the rain, but eagle avoids the rain by flying above the clouds. Friends, problems are common, but it is the attitude which makes the difference. I would now request Shri Prasad Lolyekar to welcome the gathering and introduce Dr. Mashelkar, a man with a different attitude.
आजच्या कार्यावळीचे मुखेल सोयरे आणि मुखेल वक्ते डॉक्टर रघुनाथ माशेलकर, गोय राज्याचे माननीय मुख्यमंत्री डॉक्टर प्रमोद सावंत, हांगा जमिल्ले सगळे जाणकार आणि वांगड्यांनी, ज्या प्रकारात भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकरान आपले निमणे फंक्शन अटेंड केले त्याच प्रकारात आज 50 वर्षांनंतर त्यांची 50 वर्षाची पुण्यतिथी मनयतना पहिले फंक्शन जाता. 50 वर्षांनंतरही भाऊसाहेबांची यादी ही वास्तू आणि हो प्रकार विसरूक पावलो ना हे आयच्या उपस्थितीवयल्यान जाणवता. भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकरांचे योग्य वर्णन गदी माडगूळकर आणि आपल्या कवितेतल्यान केला. सिंधू सागराने आपले काळीज दिले आहे या माणसाला, खवळे उसळे पण सीमा सुटणार नाही. दयानंद नुसते नाव नाही, तो स्वभाव आहे याचा. हा सहज विसावेल त्या आसनालाच शासन समजतो अवघा गोमंत. हा चालेल तो मार्ग नेतृत्वाचाच असतो. भाऊसाहेबाचे इतले साधे सोपे वर्णन आणि खंयच्या शब्दांनी करचे. त्यांचे त्यावेळेचे सेक्रेटरी शरद उपासने आणि त्यांच्या औदार्याचो एक साधोसो खीण बरोवन दवरले आसा. ते म्हणटात, पयलींचो जेन्ना भूकंप जालो तेन्ना भाऊसाहेब थंयच्या लोकांच्यो वेदना पुसपाक गेले. वतना पयशांची बॅग घेवन वाटपा खातीर गेले. थंय अशें जाणवलें शरद उपासनी की मनीस परतो परतो रांगेक लावन परते परते पयशे घेता. तांणी भाऊसाहेबाक सांगलें की पळय ते तुका फटयता. भाऊसाहेबान तांकां म्हणलें, अशें कित्याक तुका दिसता? तूं अशें कित्याक समजना की तांची गरज आपणान दिल्ल्या पयशा परसय चड आसा म्हणून ते परते रांगेक रावतात आनी परते घेतात. उपासनीन तांकां परते म्हणलें, म्हळ्यार तूं दीत रावतलो? तर भाऊसाहेबान तांकां म्हणलें, ते मागायला थकत नाही तर मी द्यायला का थकू. ताच्या व्हडल्या काळजाचो हो मनीस. म्हणूनच एस.एम. जोशी म्हणटा, भाऊसाहेबाक जाय आशिल्लें जाल्यार कॅबिनेट डिसिजन घेवन असेंब्लीक ठराव पास करून तेज्यान गोंय महाराष्ट्राक विलीन करूं येताले. पूण लोकशाहीचेर श्रद्धा आशिल्लो हो मनीस ज्याने ओपिनियन पोल मान्य केलो. लोकांचो ओपिनियन पोल मान्य केलोच. त्या भायर सेंट्रल गव्हर्नमेंटान जेन्ना ताका सांगलें की ओपिनियन पोल जर निपक्षपाती जातलो जाल्यार तुवें सीएम पदा वयल्यान राजिनामा दिवन सकल देवपाक जाय. तेन्ना उदार अंतकरणान हो नेतो सकल देवलो. ह्या येद्या व्हडल्या काळजाचो हो मनीस ज्याची 50वी पुण्यतीथ आज आमी मनयतात आनी ती मनोवपाच्या निमतान जे व्याख्यान दवरलां तें त्याच येद्या व्हडल्या मनशाचें. आज आमचे मदीं आसात डॉक्टर रघुनाथ माशेलकर. 81 वर्साचो हो तरुण. चैतन्याक वय नासता हें जर कळचें जाल्यार ते फक्त रघुनाथ माशेलकर हांकां पळोवनच. न्यूटनान ज्या पुस्तकांत ज्या पेनान आपली सही मारली त्याच पुस्तकांत त्याच पेन हातांत घेवन सही मारपी हो भारतांतलो हो गोमंत पुत्र. म्हणून ताका फेलो ऑफ रॉयल सोसायटी हें मानांकन प्राप्त जालां. रघुनाथ माशेलकर हळदी घाटाची लढाई भारताक जिखून दिवपी आणि हळदीचो पेटंट भारताच्या नावार करपी हो सुपुत्र ज्याने फक्त हळदीच्या नावाचो पेटंट भारताच्या नावार केलो ना तर अनेक शास्त्रज्ञ तयार केले जे आपल्या ह्या जागतिक लढाईत भारता खातीर पेटंट मागपा खातीर झगडटले आणि झुजामळार शिकतले. माशेलकरान अनेक अधिकार पदां भुशयली. तातली कांय म्हळ्यार डायरेक्टर ऑफ नॅशनल केमिकल लॅबोरेटरी 1979 ते 95. मागीर ते जाले डायरेक्टर जनरल ऑफ CSIR, चेअरमन ऑफ नॅशनल इनोव्हेशन फाउंडेशन, प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ ग्लोबल रिसर्च अलायन्स, प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडियन नॅशनल सायन्स अकॅडमी. त्या भायर अनेक देशाच्या अनेक युनिव्हर्सिटी व्हिजिटंट प्रोफेसर म्हणूनही ते गेला. हार्वर्ड युनिव्हर्सिटी 2007 ते 2012, डेलावेर युनिव्हर्सिटी 1976 ते 1988, टेक्नॉलॉजी युनिव्हर्सिटी ऑफ डेन्मार्क 1982, सर लुईस मॅथसन डिस्टिंग्विश्ड प्रोफेसर ॲट मोनाश युनिव्हर्सिटी 15 वर्सां 2007 ते 2022. त्याचप्रमाणे अनेक भारतीय युनिव्हर्सिटीचे चॅन्सलर म्हणूनही त्यांनी काम केलं. आसाम युनिव्हर्सिटी शिलचर, अकॅडमी ऑफ सायंटिफिक अँड इनोव्हेशन रिसर्चचे चॅन्सलर, इन्स्टिट्यूट ऑफ केमिकल टेक्नॉलॉजीचे चॅन्सलर आणि जिओ इन्स्टिट्यूट जिओ युनिव्हर्सिटी जी नव्यान स्थापन जाला त्याचे चॅन्सलर पद ते भूषयतात. स्वातंत्र्यानंतर अनेक भारताच्या पंतप्रधानांच्या सायंटिफिक ॲडवायझरी काउन्सिलाचे सदस्य म्हणून ताणें काम केलं. माशेलकर सदांच फर्स्ट म्हणून अनेक वर्सां मुखार रावले. हे फर्स्ट खंयचे? Dr. Mashelkar has many firsts to his credit. He was the first Indian to win most prestigious TUAS Lenovo Science Prize in 2018, the highest science prize by the World Academy of Science. The first Indian from India to be elected a fellow of the US National Academy of Inventors, and the first Asian scientist to win the Business Week Award. Star of Asia Awards at the hands of George Bush, then President of USA. First and only scientist so far to win JRD Tata Corporate Leadership Award. First jury member from India to be on prestigious Queen Elizabeth Prize of Engineering, which is considered as equivalent to the Nobel Prize in Engineering. माशेलकरान इनोव्हेशनाची एक वेगळीच गंगा भारतात हाडली. ताणी इनोव्हेशन अनेक कॉर्पोरेट इन्स्टिट्यूशनांकूय प्रमोट केलें. ही हॅज प्रमोटेड इनोव्हेशन इन कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड. चेअर्ड रिलायन्स इनोव्हेशन काउन्सिल, KPIT टेक्नॉलॉजीज इनोव्हेशन काउन्सिल, थर्मॅक्स इनोव्हेशन काउन्सिल, पर्सिस्टंट सिस्टम इनोव्हेशन काउन्सिल, मेरिको फाउंडेशन्स इनोव्हेशन काउन्सिल. ते अनेक कंपनीचे डायरेक्टरय आशिल्ले आनी डायरेक्टर आसात. टाटा ग्रुप, रिलायन्स इंडस्ट्रीज, टाटा मोटर्स, हिंदुस्तान युनिलिव्हर, थर्मॅक्स, पिरामिड एंटरप्राइजेस अँड टेक्नॉलॉजीज अशा अनेक कंपनीच्या डायरेक्टर बोर्डाचे ते डायरेक्टर म्हणून काम करतात. ताणी आपल्या आवयच्या नावान अंजनी माशेलकर फाउंडेशनाच्या नावान एक इन्क्लुझिव्ह इनोव्हेशन अवॉर्ड सुरू केला, जाचो फायदो भारतातल्या सगळ्या यंग सायंटिस्टांक मेळटा. माशेलकराक भारत सरकारान पद्मश्री, पद्मभूषण आणि पद्मविभूषण पुरस्कार दिवन गौरवान्वित केला. आणि माशेलकराक सगळ्यात काळजाक भितरलो आशिल्लो म्हणटा तो पुरस्कार म्हळ्यार गोंयच्या सरकारान आनी सबंद गोंयान तांकां दिल्लो गोमंत विभूषण पुरस्कार. नानी पालखेवाला म्हणटा जेन्ना मनीस खंय असो व्हड पावंड्याचेर पावता तेन्ना तो झुंबर जावन फक्त परजळटा, पूण एक झुंबर दुसऱ्या झुंबराक जर तेकेले जायत जाल्यार दुसरें झुंबर पेटना. तें काम फक्त मेणवात करता. येद्या व्हडल्या पावंड्याचेर पावंडय माशेलकर सरान मेणवाती सारक्यो अनेक मेणवाती पेटयल्यात गोंयभरात आनी भारतभरात. असो हो गोमंत पुत्र जगभर नामना मेळयल्लो तुमच्या मुखार सादर करता आनी म्हजी 2 उतरां सोंपयता. देव बरें करूं.
I would now request Arlene Kuna to present a bouquet of flowers to Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar. And Manaji Prabhugaonkar will present a bouquet of flowers to our Chief Minister, Dr. Bhausaheb. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very befitting that the government of Goa has organized this memorial lecture by a visionary who has vision for the nation on the occasion of 50th death anniversary of another visionary who had a vision for his state of Goa. May I now request our Chief Minister, Dr. Bhausaheb, to express himself on the occasion.
भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकर यांच्या 50व्या पुण्यतिथीच्या निमित्तात आज आयोजित केल्ल्या या खासा लेक्चरा खातीर आमच्या मदीं आसात डॉक्टर रघुनाथ माशेलकर. आमी जशें म्हणटा की एक गोमंत विभूषणाचे दुसऱ्या गोमंत विभूषणान तांचे आमच्या मुखार सांगप, ह्या खासा सुवाळ्याक तांच्या खूब खूब गोंय सरकारच्या वतीन स्वागत करता. मान्यवरांचे जे खासा करून वेगवेगळ्या क्षेत्रांतले मान्यवर हांगासर आसात तांचें हांव स्वागत करता. गोंय सरकारच्या वतीन पुराय ह्या कार्यक्रमाक म्हणजे आयचो हो लेक्चर आसात अशाच पद्दतीची लेक्चर सिरीज फुडले वर्सभर खासा करून भुरग्यां खातीर भाऊची 50 वर्सांच्या कार्यकाळांतलो तांचो पयलो मुख्यमंत्री म्हणून तांच्यांनी केल्लें कार्य हे आयच्या युवकाच्या समोर येवपाक जाय म्हणून तर खाशा कार्यावळ पुराय वर्सभर वेगवेगळ्या जाणांक हे लेक्चर सिरीज अशाच पद्दतीन वेगवेगळ्याचे इन्स्पिरेशनल टॉक हे आयोजन केले वतले. भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकरांचे स्मृतीस्थळ हे रिनोव्हेशन करपाचो पायापरणी सुवाळो आजच जालो. फुडल्या वर्सभराच्या भितर आमी भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकरांचे स्मृतीस्थळ हे परत एकदा 50 वर्सांच्या उपरांत रिनोव्हेशन करपाचें काम आमी हातांत घेतलां. तिसरी आनी म्हत्वाची गजाल, कारण पणजे जिमखानात आमी आसात, भाऊ क्रिकेट आनी फुटबॉल हो तेंच्या सामको काळजाक लागीं आशिल्लो आनी ताकाच लागून भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकर फुटबॉल चषक परत एकदा आमी गोंयांत सुरवात करता. GFA आनी GFDC हांच्या वतीन आमी ओनून गोंयांतले फुटबॉलपटू हांच्या खातीर फुटबॉल टुर्नामेंटाचें आयोजन केलां. वेळ पडलो जाल्यार हो फुटबॉल टुर्नामेंट एवरी इयर गोंय सरकार भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकर फुटबॉल टुर्नामेंट हे दर वर्सा खेळयतले. अशाच पद्दतीच्यो वेगवेगळ्यो एक्टिविटीज तांचे फॅमिलीज ट्रस्ट जे आसा तांच्यांनी आयोजन करपाचें ठरयलें. वेगवेगळ्या राजकीय मळाचेरय वेगवेगळ्यो एक्टिविटी जायत आसा. हांव खरें म्हणल्यार आमी म्हणटा की 1961 गोंय मुक्त जालें आनी ताच्या वेळार गोंय महाराष्ट्रांत विलीन जाता काय कितें अशाच पद्दतीचो एक संभ्रम आसलो म्हणपाक कांय हरकत ना. संभ्रम कित्याक तर बऱ्याच जाणांक तेन्ना तें जाय आशिल्लें. घडये कदाचित म्हणजे तेन्ना वेगळ्या पद्दतीचो क्रायटेरिया आशिल्लो म्हणून तर ओपिनियन पोल जालो. ओपिनियन पोल जालो आनी ताज्या उपरांत सुद्दां म्हणजे ओपिनियन पोल गोंय राज्य म्हणून दवरपाचो जालो. जाय जाल्यार भाऊ सिंगल थरावांतल्यान गोंय महाराष्ट्रांत घालूंकूय येता आशिल्लें, पण भाऊ खूब विजन फुडें पळयलें आनी भाऊन तेंच विजन पळयलें म्हणून खूब गजाली गोंयांत जावपाक शकल्यो. आमच्या सारकिल्ले सामान्यांतले सामान्य युवक हे आमदार, मंत्री आनी मुख्यमंत्री पदाचेर पावले अदापी कदापि शक्य नाशिल्लें. आमी पळयता की इतकेंच न्हय तर भाऊन जे शैक्षणीक मळाचेर, सांस्कृतीक मळाचेर, इंडस्ट्रियल सेक्टरांत तांच्यांनी केल्लो वाव आज आमकां खूब मोठ्या प्रमाणांत वेगवेगळ्या सेक्टरांत पळोवपाक मेळटा. आनी विशेश करून भाऊन केल्लें काम हे प्रायमरी स्कूल आयजूय बी गोंयांतल्या म्हणजे गांव तिथे शाळा हो जो कन्सेप्ट भाऊसाहेबान तेन्ना राबयलो आणि वेगवेगळ्या एका पंचायतीन 4-4, 5-5 शाळा सुद्धा आसात आमी सगळ्यांनी पळयल्या आणि त्योच शाळा जाल्ल्या कारणान आमी हाय लिटरसी रेट गोंयांत जो जालो म्हणजे 14 वर्सां उसरा स्वतंत्र मेळोन सुद्धा लिटरसी रेटाच्या बाबतीत आमी सगळ्यात फुडें जे पावले त्याच प्रायमरी स्कुला खातीर आणि म्हणून आमी गांवांतल्यान भुरगे शिक्षण घेवपाक शकले आणि ते फुडें पावले. भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकर हांच्यांनी गोंयचो मुख्यमंत्री पळयता आसतना न्याय, समता आणि प्रगती ह्या तत्वा कडेन म्हणजे ते वचनबद्ध रावले आणि त्याच पद्दतीन कार्य करीत ते फुडें गेले. म्हाका दिसता ह्या राज्याच्या उदरगतीच्या बाबतीत शिक्षण, भलायकी, मुळावी बांदावळ, ग्रामीण उदरगत हांच्यांनी तेजेर खूब मोठ्या प्रमाणात तांच्यांनी कार्य केले म्हणून तेंच्यांनी प्रोग्रेसीव कायदे हाडपाक ते फाटीं पडूंक ना. आमी पळयता की वेगवेगळे प्रोग्रेसीव कायदे कारण पोर्तुगीजांतल्यान हांगासल्यान गेल्या उपरांत जे डेव्हलपमेंट फ्रंटाचेर आनी वेगवेगळे कायदे हाडपाक जाय आसले त्याय बाबतींत ते फुडें आशिल्ले. सांस्कृतीक दायज आसतले, सौमीक सोबिताय आसतली हाज्याय फुडें तेंच्यांनी तितकी खबरदारी घेतली आनी ते फुडें गेले. सस्टेनेबल टुरिजम हाची सुरवात जर केन्ना जाली आसत जाल्यार तेंच्या पयल्या टेन्युअरांतल्यान तेंच्यांनी सस्टेनेबल टुरिजम हाचो एक बुनयादीचो फायदो घातलो आणि आज टुरिजम क्षेत्रांत आमी खूब फुडें वयता आसतना आमकां पळयता आणि ताकाच लागून गोंय एक दृश्टीन आमी पावल फुडें मारता आणि आमकां सगळ्या जाणांक गोंय ल्हान राज्य जरी असलें जाल्यार तसो पळोवप वचत जाल्यार भाऊचो प्रभाव हो सायडीच्या राज्यांचेरूय आमकां दिसून येतालो. म्हणून तर सायडीचे महाराष्ट्र आसत, कर्नाटक आसत, इवन तो मध्य प्रदेश पर्यंत थंयसरले मिनिस्टर्स हे भाऊसाहेबाक प्रेज करताले कारण भाऊसाहेबाचे त्या पद्दतीचे एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन आणि भाऊसाहेबाचे त्या पद्दतीची घेवपाची डिसिजन्स म्हणजे गव्हर्मेंट ऑफ इंडिया काही डिसिजन्स तेंच्या बद्दल तेज्या वेळार इम्प्रेसिव्ह आशिल्ले आणि कॉपरेटीव फेडरलिझम दवरपा खातीर तांच्यांनी एका पद्दतीचो समन्वय जो आशिल्लो वो इतर राज्यां बरोबर ते प्रस्थापीत करपाक शकले. म्हाका आज खूब बरें दिसता की तांच्या 50व्या पुण्यतिथीच्या निमित्तान म्हण आमी ज्या जिमखान्यांत तेंच्यांनी आपलो अखेरचो श्वास घेतलो त्या पणजी जिमखान्याचें हांव अभिनंदन करता की सातत्यान भाऊसाहेबाच्यो स्मृती तांच्यांनी ताज्यो दवरल्या, तांच्यांनी जाग्यो दवरल्या आणि सातत्यान जिमखान्यांत वेगवेगळे कार्यक्रम करता आसतना थोड्याच दिसा पयलीं भाऊसाहेबांचो क्रिकेट पॅड आणि बॅट हातात घेवन तो स्टॅच्यू अनावरण करपाचें भाग्य तांच्या फॅमिली ट्रस्टान जो स्टॅच्यू तांच्यांनी पणजे जिमखान्यांत केलो अनावरण करपाचें भाग्य म्हाका लाभलें आणि हांव परत एकदां म्हणजे भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकर आनी म्हजो गांव हो तसो पळोवप वचत जाल्यार खूब लागचो संबंद आसा आनी हें भाग्य म्हाका लाभलें. भाऊची पयली माय ही पाळी ग्रामपंचायत क्षेत्रांतल्या कोठंबी गांवांत आशिल्ली ज्या कोठंबी गांवांत म्हजो जल्म जालो आणि तेंचे मायनींग आजुनूय त्याच पद्दतीन थंयसर सुरू आसा. तांच्यांनी आपलें पयलें हायस्कूल हें आमच्या म्हज्याच मतदारसंघात वेळग्या हांगासर तेंच्यांनी सुरवात केलें. तांच्यांनी थंयसर प्रायमरी, सेकंडरी आनी हायर सेकंडरी पर्यंतचें एड्युकेशन हें तेंच्यांनी हायस्कूल ह्या नांवान तेंच्यांनी सुरवात केलें. आजूय बी खूब बऱ्या पद्दतीन हायस्कूल सुरवात आसा. गोंयच्या उदरगतीक तांचो खूब मोठो वांटो आसा. म्हाका दिसता हें सगळें सांगता आसतना आज गोंय ह्या देशाच्या बाबतीत आमी जशें म्हणटा की आझादी का अमृत काळात आमी विकसीत भारत 2047 हाचो विचार करता तर खंयसरूच गोंय फाटीं उरचें न्ही आणि ते गोंय फाटीं उरपाक जायना म्हणजे योग्य मनीस ताका म्हणटा डॉक्टर रघुनाथ माशेलकर पद्मश्री पद्मभूषण हांचो आज हांगासर आमच्या समोर टॉक जावपाचो आसा. ताका हें सगळें सांगता आसतना हांव शेणै गोंयबाबाच्यो दोनूच उतरां तुमच्या समोर मांडटा आनी म्हाजें हें सोंपयता. गोड म्हजें गोंय शेणै गोंयबाबाची ही कविता आसा. त्या गोड म्हजें गोंय सुंदर म्हजें गोंय पुर्विल्ले नामनीचें चड मोठे भाग्याचें उंच माते कोंकणाचें हेंच म्हजें गोंय. हें गोंयचें सदोदीत आमी सगळे जाण आमी पळयता की गोंय हें खूब भाग्यवान आसा. भाऊसाहेब बांदोडकरा सारकिले भाग्य विधाते गोंयांत जन्माक आयले आणि त्याच बरोबर गोंयची नामना देश आणि विदेशात पावोवपी डॉक्टर रघुनाथ माशेलकर आज आमच्या मदीं आसा. त्याय खातीर आमी भाग्यवान आसा. देव बरें करूं.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar is known for his own world-class scientific research, for his transformative science and innovation institution leadership. He has been an influential thought leader in shaping science, technology, and innovation policies in post-liberalized India. He is the man, ladies and gentlemen, who in his book Reinventing India pronounced his Panchashil for the new millennium: child-centered education, women-centered family, human-centered development, knowledge-centered society, and innovation-centered India. His mantras of inclusive innovation, more from less for more, and Gandhian engineering have been a constant source of inspiration for corporates and youth alike. Dr. Mashelkar fought a 14-month-long legal battle to revoke the US patent on Haldi and emerged victorious. This victory was so significant that it changed the way patents were classified and earned him the moniker of the warrior of ready heart. A person with stupendous and tremendous achievements of 25 books, 284 research papers to his credit, and an honored recipient of doctorates by 44 universities from India and abroad. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar. So, the audience is yours. Just one clarification, since this is a memorial lecture, there will be no questions afterwards.
Our most beloved Chief Minister of Goa, Shri Bhausaheb, members of the Bandodkar family. In fact, we are all members of the Bandodkar family. And I've explained why I feel like that. And friends and admirers of revered Bhausaheb Bandodkar, ladies and gentlemen. It is 50 years ago that to this date, Bhausaheb left us. But Bhausaheb was not an individual. He was an institution. Individuals go, institutions don't. So he is around. So although he is no more, he is everywhere for us. I feel most privileged that you thought, the government thought that I was worthy. Yati, Jyoti, all the family members thought that I was worthy of delivering the very first memorial lecture. There is always something fantastic about being first, all right? Then we'll follow the second and the third. But being first, that's very, very special. So I'm very, very grateful to you. भाऊंना मी भेटलो गोमंतक मराठा समाजाच्या कार्यालयात प्रार्थना समाजजवळ 2 हत्ती आणि इम्पिरियल थिएटर आहे त्याच्या बाजूला याचं कार्यालय होतं. आणि त्याचं कारण असं होतं की गोमंतक मराठा समाजाकडून मला स्कॉलरशिप मिळायची. मला 8 का 10 रुपये दर महिन्याला होती, पण माझ्यासाठी ती गैरच होती. आणि SSC मध्ये सेकंडरी स्कूल सर्टिफिकेट एक्झाम I stood 11th among 135,000 students, and therefore I was felicitated by him in not a formal big function. And I still remember, I was म्हणजे मी बराच हडकुळा होतो, not like pot begin that I am now. And when I saw his magnificent figure, I must tell you, I don't know sort of how I felt actually. But it made me feel easy. My पाठीवर हात ठेवला, माझी चौकशी केली. And then मी त्यांना चरणस्पर्श केला, त्यांचे आशीर्वाद घेतले. And what he said at that time, I still remember. He said, खूप शिक, मोठा हो, आणि गोमंतकाला तुझा अभिमान वाटला पाहिजे असं काम कर. आणि आताच गोमंत विभूषण कला मंदिरात मला 30 मे 2013ला मिळाला, जवळजवळ 10 वर्षापूर्वी. त्यावेळी मला त्यांची आठवण झाली. म्हटलं मी काहीतरी केलं असणार त्याने, त्यामुळे तुम्ही माझं कौतुक केलं आणि आयुष्यात काहीतरी धन्य झाल्यासारखं वाटलं. भाषणाची सुरुवात करायच्या आधी एक गोष्टीचा मला उल्लेख करावासा वाटतो. ज्योतिताई बांदेकर यांचा जो आठवांचा पारिजात हे पुस्तक त्यांनी फार सुंदर लिहिलेलं आहे, ते आपण मला पाठवलं होतं. त्याच्यावर अभिप्राय द्यायला आणि तो माझ्या स्वतःच्या हस्ताक्षराने लिहिला, कारण आय डिड नॉट हॅव द मराठी फॉन्ट आणि आपण तो तसा छापला. आय रिअली अप्रिशिएट. So what I wrote there, I will just read out, because if you want to understand Bhausaheb, I think that's the best book you can sort of have, as an individual, as a person, because he was a great human being. तर त्यात मी लिहिलं होतं की व्यक्तिगत अनुभवातून पाहिलेल्या व अत्यंत ओघवत्या भाषेत लिहिलेल्या या भाऊंच्या हृदय आठवणी म्हणजे ज्योतिताईंनी आपल्या समाजाला दिलेली अनुभव देणगी आहे. या भाऊंच्या तेजस्वी व्यक्तिमत्वाचे अनेक पैलू दिसतात. अँड सर, यू टॉक्ड अबाउट मेनी ऑफ हिज क्वालिटीज. दातृत्व, निरपेक्ष लोकसेवा, तडफ, धैर्य, विवेक, चिकाटी, निष्ठा, कलाप्रियता, अगदी छोट्या छोट्या गोष्टीतून भाऊंचे मोठे गुण दाखवणारे हे हृदयस्पर्शी व अगदी आगळं वेगळं व्यक्तिचित्र केवळ गोमंतकीयच नव्हे तर सर्व भारतीयांसाठी प्रेरणादायी आहे. हे मराठीत आहे. दिस बुक इज इन मराठी अँड आय थिंक इट इज अवर बाउंडन ड्युटी दॅट इट रीचेस द वर्ल्ड बाय गेटिंग इट ट्रान्सलेटेड into sort of all languages. So I thought I would begin my lecture with these personal sort of remarks. The title of my talk today is Building New India as an Exponential Inspirator. Now you might wonder what is this Exponential Inspirator, and I'll explain it as I sort of go forward. Now how do I begin? Because I'm a scientist, so you will expect me to start with the equation, so I will not disappoint you. I'll start with the equation. So there was this meeting of scientists where they're discussing the most powerful equation that scientists have created. So somebody got up and said Newton's second law, force equal to, आठवतं की नाही? Mass into acceleration, F equal to mv. Then somebody got up and said, no, Einstein, E equal to mc square. And then I was sitting quiet and they said, what do you think is the most important equation? So I said, not Newton, not Einstein. So they were surprised, not Newton, not Einstein, what is it? So I said, according to me, the most powerful equation is E equal to F. Education is equal to future. That's simple. And that is exactly what Bhausaheb did. And sir, you elaborated very eloquently his contribution that he had done in education. But I thought I will read out what Jyotitai you have written, basically. It's in Marathi again. शिक्षणाला भाऊंनी फार महत्व दिलं. खेडोपाडी असलेली निरक्षरता पुसून काढून बहुजन समाजाला साक्षर करण्याचं महत्वाचं पाऊल त्यांनी उचललं. त्या ठिकाणी खेड्यातील व शहरातील गरीब मुलांना शिक्षणाची आवड असूनही शाळेची फी भरणं अशक्य असल्यामुळे शाळेत जाता येत नसे. त्यामुळे मुलं शिक्षणाशिवाय गावात भटकत असत. मागासलेल्या समाजाची मुलं शिकल्यास पुढारलेल्या समाजाची मजुरी कोण करेल? फी शिफारून त्यांना मान देणार नाहीत अशा स्वार्थी व संकुचित विचारसरणीचे काही पुढारलेले लोक बहुजन समाजाच्या मुलांना जव करत असे. Those were the days. आणि देन अशा या मागासलेल्या समाजात प्रत्येक खेड्यात व कानाकोपऱ्यात जवळजवळ 1,500 प्राथमिक शिक्षणाच्या सरकारी शाळा भाऊंनी सुरू केल्या. 1,00,000-1.5 लाख मागासलेल्या मुलांची SSC पर्यंत शिक्षणाची सोय सर्वत्र केली. एवढंच नव्हे तर भाऊंनी बहुजन समाजाची सर्वांगीण सुधारणा व त्यांच्या जास्तीत जास्त माध्यमिक उच्च शिक्षणाचा फैलाव करून सरकारी व औद्योगिक क्षेत्रात त्यांना मानाचं स्थान व आर्थिक लाभ मिळावा या विचाराने त्यांची गोव्यातच उच्च शिक्षणाची सोय व्हावी म्हणून आर्ट्स, सायन्स, कॉमर्स, फार्मसी, मेडिकल, इंजिनिअरिंग यासारखी महाविद्यालये सरकारी व निम सरकाररित्या उघडण्यास उत्तेजन दिले. गरजू आणि मोतकरी विद्यार्थ्यांना स्वतःकडून हजारो रुपये आपले पूज्य पिताजी कैलासवासी बाळकृष्ण बांदोडकर यांच्या स्मरणार्थ द्यायची व्यवस्था केली. 1961ला पुण्यातील ज्ञानप्रबोधिनी या शैक्षणिक संस्थेला देणगी देऊन तेथील विद्यालयाला उपकृत केले. ज्ञानप्रबोधिनी ही फार मोठी संस्था आहे. प्राऊड टू बी इज करंट प्रेसिडेंट ॲट द मोमेंट. आणि त्यावेळी अशा संस्थेला त्यांनी मदत करणं, त्यामुळेच आज ज्ञानप्रबोधिनी जे आहे ते आहे. अगदी अल्पकाळात शिक्षणाचा प्रसार इतक्या वेगाने इतरत्र कुठे झाला at this speed and at this scale, and that's very sort of important. Why did I read that? I read that because it is important. Just as sir you emphasized this, I also want to emphasize the power of equation E equal to F. Then you said you have done only half the job. You have proposed the equation, but you have not proved it. The fact that I am here is the proof of that. But I will go beyond it. There are a number of proofs as far as I am concerned from my life, and I will go back to 17 March 2000. What happened on that day? The venue is the Rashtrapati Bhavan, and it was the day on which Padma Awards were given. And I and Ratan Tata got Padma Bhushan one after the other on that day. So you will say, how does it prove E equal to F? Then I will tell you why. We got them at the hands of K.R. Narayanan, who was the president. Now K.R. Narayanan was born in a very poor family. He used to walk several kilometers to the school. His parents were so poor that they did not afford the tuition fee. So he would stand outside the class and take notes, so as to say. How did his life get transformed? He got a Tata scholarship. And then, of course, he went on to become the president. My life was not very different. I was born in Australia. My father died when I was 6. My mother could barely read or write. And she took me to Mumbai in search of a job. Life was very tough, as you all know. I walked barefoot until I was 12. I studied in a municipal school, in Marathi school. I remember 2 meals a day was a challenge. I was hungry many a days. My mother was a great food technologist. She used to cook a food by which you would not feel hungry at night. I studied under street lights. And then, as I said, in the 11th standard, ACC, I stood 11 among 135,000 students, and I was going to leave school because she was really struggling. And then came Tata scholarship, and the rest was history. And here is an interesting thing. A Tata scholar becomes a president. He gives Padma Bhushan to Tata, because of which he got Tata scholarship, and gives it to another Tata scholar. If this is not true E equal to F, then nothing will prove equal. And therefore, Bhausaheb was right in investing in education. And you are right. In the morning when we had a discussion, you remember we focused on education, skill, how completely committed you are to skill development. That's extremely important because that is the sort of good future. I think I must modify the equation because as a scientist, you know, there is always a challenge if you make small mistake. So the actual equation is not E equal to F. It is E into education, into opportunity is equal to F. We have seen PhDs applying for lower division class positions when railways sort of apply. That is not wrong. That means they have no opportunity. And therefore, how do we create opportunity? That's most important. So, in this context, let me tell you a story. There is National Innovation Foundation, which was created by the government in year 2000. I was its first chairman and continued to be one for 18 years. But the real driver was Professor Anil Gupta, basically. I call him or Guru. I'm sort of a modern Gandhi, you know, like he used to do Shoda Yatras in villages, walking miles basically. I mean, he has covered Kashmir to Kanyakumari thrice over by going on this conversation. And the fundamental belief was that everyone is someone. The fundamental belief was minds on the margin are not marginal minds. Everybody can sort of create. And we used to give awards, actually. President of India used to come and give these awards. And many, I mean, the very first one I remember, many of them were barefoot who came, and Dr. Kalam was so gracious, he served them tea, the king protocol and so on. So that is the National Innovation Foundation. Then we are selecting a Chief Innovation Officer, and I was chairing the interview. And I saw the CV of an individual. He said his specialty was branding. So I said, great. Tell me, I want to brand my India. How will you brand India? So he was confused because he had branded a refrigerator, he had branded a car. How do you brand a nation? And then I said, I will help you. So I said, United States of America brands itself as land of opportunity. How do you brand it? Pat came the answer. India is a land of ideas. Now here is a good news. India is a land of ideas. And it is not a so good news. It is America which is land of opportunities. That is where the brain drain is. So our challenge is creating India as a land of opportunity. Is India becoming a land of opportunity? The answer is yes. And I'm explaining to you why it is sort of land of opportunity. For doing that, let me go to another story. This story is about lilies in the pond. There is a pond where there are lilies, and they have the habit of doubling up every day. So day 2, they are twice of day 1, and so on. On day 30, the pond is full. So on what day will it be half full? 29. On what day it will be quarter full? 28. 1/8 on 27. And 1/16 on 26. 1/16 is 6%. So on 26th day, if you visit that pond, you will see it empty. Right? And you will give it up. Kuch hone wala nahi. This is done. But you are surprised. You just go there in 4 days and it is full. Ladies and gentlemen, to me, India is releasing the pond on the 26th day. And that is the exponential part. Because when I talked about doubling up, that's the exponential we are talking about. Is it happening? Just let me give you some examples. India in 1750 had quarter of world's GDP. What happened in 1991? We had to pawn our gold. Why? Because there was a balance of payment default. So we were down. And today we talk about $600 billion foreign exchange reserves. So we went down and we went it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on our way up. You just look at India's GDP. It took 67 years to reach 1 trillion. But the next trillion came in 8 years. And the foreign trillion came in 1 year. That's the exponential. All right? You look at, for example, a sector, take IT services. The first 100 billion took 30 years. The second 100 billion took 10 years. And the third 100 billion took 3 years. That's the exponential. That's my title, Exponential Inspirator. All right? So don't undermine a release in the pond on the 26th day because you don't know what the future is. So don't judge it by the current, judge it by the slope. Let's look at corporates, for example. I talked about the country, I talked about the sector. Let's look at corporates. I've been on the Reliance board for 17 years, and I've seen them grow. It took them 15 years to become a billion-dollar company. In next 15 years, they did not double up. They went up by a factor of 10. So from 10 billion, they went to the 1 billion, they went to 10 billion. In the next 5 years, again 10x, 10 into 10, 100 billion. And the following 3 years, that is the last 3 years, they have doubled 200 billion. And now, as I speak, it is close to 300 billion. And as I know, they will be a $500 billion company within the next 4 to 5 years, the way things are going. So you just sort of imagine the kind of exponential that we are talking about. Now, you would say, what is fundamental as far as the growth is concerned? Because we all want growth. We want accelerated growth. We have lost a lot of time. As I said, for 67 years. You know, therefore, in 2007, when India celebrated 60 years, I celebrated 16 years. It was 1991 when we opened up. All right, that is where the great story that I'm talking about began. Right? So, therefore, we have to get into fundamentals and see what is very important. And it boils down to the discussion we had in the morning. If you look at growth, United States of America, the growth was because of roads and railways, physical infrastructure, which we are now doing at the rapid space. For UK, it was textiles. For Sweden, it was timber and timber products. For Denmark, it was milk and milk products. For Middle East, it was oil. If you ask me, what is the oil for India? I would say Indian talent. Okay? In fact, Atalji used to say IT is India's future. I also used to say IT is India's future, but not as in information technology, sort of Indian talent. And you can see that, because if you look at the equation, education into opportunity is equal to the future. You can see some of the Indians, how they've been. I'm coming back from Silicon Valley. I was giving a keynote in what was called as a GMG Excellence Summit. And I met several Indians and so on and so forth. And the amazing things that they have done, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, I visited, by the way, the Tesla factory. All right, massive, producing 90,000 vehicles per day. You know, and it's a wonder, as a matter of fact. But you know, who is the boss there? He's an Indian, Rishi. Education into opportunity. You look at the top 5 CEOs, for example. All right, our GDP is around $3 trillion plus. But if you look at the top 2 Indians who are heading the companies like Satya Nadella, Microsoft, it is 2.1 trillion, and Sundar Pichai, Alphabet, 1.5 trillion, that itself makes it 4 trillion. All right. You can't compare market cap with GDP, I understand, but I'm just giving you sort of a value. So I think the most important point here is that we should be proud, but not so proud when our Indians go and take over companies. We have to do it here. And that I'm most happy about. You know, people call me a dangerous optimist. I give you my autobiography. It is called Dulhan Mein Aashawan, Dangerous Optimist. So I'm going to be dangerous optimist in this lecture also. And I am really encouraged by sort of what I see among the youth. And I'm very happy to see a number of young people here. I was interacting with some young people. I try to do that so that at 81 you feel younger. And I proudly mentioned to them about Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai. I said, I'm very proud of our education system. Look at the kind of products we create. Okay? And I mentioned about Sundar Pichai and I mentioned about Satya Nadella. You know, the answer was very interesting. One young fellow got up and he said, sir, I don't think you understand what is in our thought. So I said, well, I thought I said something good. He said, no sir, your generation, your only aspiration was to go to US somehow. The next generation go to US and get a job. The following generation not only go to US, get a great job like in Microsoft, but become zero. Not us. Not us. We want to create our own Microsoft, our own Google here in India. That's the new sort of generation. You know, claps and smile don't cost anything. So when you want to give them in abundance. So what actually is happening today in India? Aspiration is fine to do that, but our coming back to startups, also something that we discussed in the morning. We just look at the picture. And I must thank Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his vision and what he has done by creating this Startup India system. Until 2016, we had 471 startups which are formally registered. In 2023, just in 7 years, we have 19,200 and exponential. Then you will give one bigger applause when I tell you the next. Until 2016, we had one unicorn per year. Unicorn is $1 billion market cap company. In 2021, not one per year, we have one per week. Almost. Not 52, I would be correct as a scientist. 44, but almost. That's fantastic. Then it says, so what? They come, they go. What happens to them? What does it mean? I would tell you even a better news now. So I got an analysis done. I said, where do they come from? Do they come from elite institutions? Do they come from IIMs? Because we have few elite institutions. And if they're producing it, it's a good news, but not such a great news. All right? There is a great news. Close to 50% of them, they are not IIMs. They come from Tier 3 cities, Tier 2 cities, and some of them are droppouts. This is democratization. Now, can you just imagine from a small village in Goa, a 26, 28-year-old young son of a, let's say, a farmer, having $1 trillion. Now, why has this happened? That's because of the digital access. All right? And several things have gone sort of well. For example, open source software rather than having to pay expensive Windows, cloud storage, right? And some other factors that I will shortly explain to you. I think so. The first part of my speech, therefore, is explaining the exponential. And as you can see, I have given you examples across the board to show how that exponential is taking place. Now, we look at the factors that are responsible also for that exponential, like in the digital world. As I said, I've been on the board of Reliance for 17 years and also chair the Reliance Innovation Council. We have had kind of Nobel laureate C.K. Prahlad and George Whitesides and a whole range of people it has been very engaging. And I remember once I was having a discussion with Mukesh, normally before the board or after the board we have some discussion, and he said, Doc, we must leapfrog to something. So I said, Mukesh, do you know why the frog leaps? He said, I don't know. I said, he leaps because he's afraid of the predator and jumps a few feet. Okay? Do you want to do that because you are afraid of the competitor and jump a few feet? Or do you want to pole vault? The size of the pole is the size of your aspiration. And he loved it. And we created a program called Beyonders. What is Beyonders? Beyonders are those who will make impossible possible and go beyond the limits of possibility and achieve something. And then we supported them with creative programs, etc. But did pole vaulting take place? Yes, it did. If you look at 2017 February, okay, India, among 231 nations, was somewhere at the bottom, 156. After Jio came, within 1 year, we did not leapfrog to 100. We pole vaulted to number 1. And in terms of mobile data consumption, we have stayed number 1. And why was that? Because data was 4 rupees per GB, voice was free. This was affordable excellence. Excellence because it was 4G LTE being given, so affordable. And that was the kind of. And what happens is that once you start creating, because we talked about our road and railway infrastructure not being, now it's sort of shaping up in a sort of big way, thanks to Honorable Nitin Gadkari and others, etc. But as far as our digital public infrastructure is concerned, it grew in a massive way. And that is what I like to call as a combinatorial innovation. That means there are several components of it, and then they came together, like India Stack and so on and so forth. And there, I must say, policy and technology, they matter, they come together. Once again, if you see Jan Dhan Yojana, mobile, Aadhaar, they were brought together. It's a combination of technology, policy, system delivery, and so on and so forth. And you can see that in 2014, for example, within 1 week, we had 1.4 crore accounts. And that has got a Guinness Book of Record. So it became the fastest financial inclusion. Can you just see? Okay. And there was combinatorial because Aadhaar, if Aadhaar was not there, this would not have been possible. Okay. So this is sort of inclusion. But most importantly, what I'm always worried about is inclusion. Okay, the benefits must go to all. And if you just see, during COVID times, we could transfer, because India was the most unbanked, let's say, country. And you can see the transformation that has sort of taken place. Also, for example, during COVID times, they could get the money. Women, for example, bank accounts only 19% jumped to 56%, so as to say. And that is a sort of a true inclusion. And this combinatorial of public digital infrastructure has worked wonders. For example, in digital payments, we have become number 1. Could you have ever imagined that the digital payments that we have would be US and China added together, surpassing by several times? In fact, 2022, 89.5 billion were transferred, $1.6 trillion value. And if you look at UPI, May 23, 9 million transactions, and UPI is now in demand in sort of other countries. Looks unreal, isn't it? If you just were there, it is in the pond. Just 10 years ago, this would have looked impossible. But it looks sort of possible. We talk about sustainability, and I'm very happy that Goa is focusing very strongly on sustainability. I saw sort of many reports on how you are moving on that. Let's look at that, because I just don't want to focus on digital. You will say, what is happening in other sectors? Now just see that when you use these lamps, you have, let us say, this CFL, as it's called, compact filament lamp. And you also have the incandescent lamp. That's what we're using, isn't it? And they consume energy. For example, 7-watt LED, like emitting diode, 50% of 14-watt CFL, and 60-watt incandescent lamp, almost 90% protection. So you create carbon footprint. What has happened is, we created a record. We moved from 0.2% share of LEDs. Within 6 years, we jumped to 88%. How was it possible? That was by demand aggregation. By demand aggregation, we brought down the cost by a factor of 9, rupees 310 in 2014 to 38, 310 to 38 rupees. And plus, we are system delivery, ESL and other things, etc. And the impact has been 40 million tons of carbon dioxide sort of reduction. Now here is release in the pond. This happened in 6 years. That will when it was 0.2%, it was like that pond, 94%. You would have said nothing can happen, but within 6 years. So ladies and gentlemen, the central point I am trying to make is that we must keep this habit of growing exponentially. Now, how sort of this growth can be maintained? What are the factors that can come in? All right. Now, let's focus on it, because that's very important. I remember this Asia Economic Dialogue that was being held in Pune, and this is Pune International Center. I happen to be the chairman, and Dr. Vijay Kirkar happens to be the vice chairman. And this Asia Economic Dialogue is the 4th year, and we get people from all around the world. And now people are even referring it to this as a Davos of the East, so as to say. Dr. Jaishankar was the chief guest. This happened just a few months ago. And I began my talk by saying that we have to worry about 3 C's. The 3 C's are simple. It is COVID, conflict, and climate. COVID, we are still not recovered. We are just recovering. And conflict, you know, Ukraine, how it has affected. And you don't know the next conflict will be that. We don't know. And climate is a sort of a continuing challenge. And I remember somebody said, Dr. Mashelkar, and by the way, Dr. Jaishankar responded, a beautiful answer, giving 3 C's which can come back to 3 C's. That I sort of clear. So what happens when you have a growth and suddenly COVID came and growth came back? Suddenly conflict came and there was a challenge, and so on and so forth. So somebody said there is a 4th C that Dr. Mashelkar missed, that is chips, semiconductor chips. That can be a sort of a big conflict, and we need to worry about it. So what it means is that when you are growing exponentially, suddenly this inhibitors come. Like in enzyme kinetic, the growth, there is an inhibitor and then the sort of growth starts. So we need to worry about this. And therefore, whatever happens, we have to be resilient. Okay. And resilience, there are 10 tenets. I have a separate lecture on this, which are adaptability, agility, resilient thinking, autonomous innovation, total alignment, digitalization, platformization, scenario building, etc., etc. Now this is becoming very important. For our students, for example, we don't teach them resilience. In my judgment, this is a VUCA word, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, and VUCA is the new normal, let us say. And therefore our students have to prepare for themselves. And therefore all these factors, they have to be sort of initiated to them, and they have to be sort of prepared. I am Sir Louis Matheson History Professor at Monash University for the last 15 years, and I have given these talks on resilience, and they now introduce resilience as an important factor in their engineering work. All right. So this growth inhibitor, to prevent it, how do we remain resilient? You might want to hear some examples on how one can become resilient. For example, resilient thinking. You know, Dhirubhai Ambani, when he started his Jamnagar refinery, as usual, he got the foreign consultants. And the foreign consultant asked him the obvious, for what specification would you like to design the refinery? He said, all, from the dirtiest to the finest. They said, but there is no such refinery in the world. He said, there is only the first one. And they built that. Today, that refinery processes 200 plus crudes. So no matter what happens in the world, as you can see, their margins are boundless. Then adaptability and agility. You know the way it grew. I'm giving one example from one industry so that you will understand basically what we did. You know, to get 50 million customers, for telephone it took 50 years, mobile 12 years, YouTube 4 years, Facebook 3 years, and Twitter 2 years. Reliance 23 years. Will now hold the record. But of course, ChatGPT has broken all records. So I'm not talking about that. And the reason they could do was that they did onboarding in 15 minutes, not 2 days. And the reason that they could do was that they could use Aadhaar to do the e-KYC. That is, know your customer by doing the e-way. And then suddenly Supreme Court came and said, you can't use Aadhaar. So wow, the way they're accelerating, right? Exponential comes in danger, isn't it? The moment you say you can't have that speed because you can't do that. They immediately went into an alternative and they created an image-based authentication, hyperverse artificial intelligence platform, alternative, within 15 days, and they were back on track. So I think we must understand that VUCA is the new normal. It will come because of internal factors, external factors, and we'll have to sort of. The other important part, and I want to emphasize this, because again, it goes back to our conversation in the morning. There is what is called as talent, technology, and trust. The trust deficit creates a problem in growth. I'll give you an example. You know, in my mother's name, I have created this Panjim Gymkhana Inclusive Innovation Award, and I'll come to that a little later. And one of the winners was Gymkhana from ICGB. You know, when you are dengue, it takes a couple of days, 1 or 2 days, whether you have a dengue, at what stage it is, and so on. He created something which can do it in 15 minutes. Just 15 minutes. He had 2 markers. Okay? US FDA approved. US patents granted. Patents here granted. Will not buy them. Why? We are importing from US, we are importing from Australia, we are importing from South. Then came a pandemic. All the kids were running out, and we went, give us few lakhs in, 2 countries said we can't, and only South Korea said we will. And as luck would have it, they loaded it on a ship which went to Africa, not to India. So we had no kids, what to do? We had no other alternative but to go to Gymkhana. Gymkhana's market share at that time was 0%. Today it is 78%. Imagine that ship had come to India. What would I work with? 0%. So I think it is most important that we have trust in our young people. And that is where we have to create systems, even in our startup, where we give them an opportunity. All right? We trust them. We take risks on them. Venture capital cannot be venture capital. Venture capital has to be adventure capital. And how do we create that? You know, there is this Maharashtra State Innovation Society, of which I have been the co-chairperson. The other co-chair is the Skill Development Entrepreneurship Minister. And of course, I am permanent, I remain Mashelkar. Ministers, they keep on changing. And 2018, for example, we had a startup policy. And I argued. I said, Sachin Tendulkar, at the age of 15, he scores a century. But he can't get into test because there is a 10-year experience. And as you know, startup is a startup. Where is the experience? And if you have the normal tender process, how will you give the... So we changed the tender process as far as the young people are concerned. And I was just giving an example to the Honorable Minister in the morning that there was a drone, a startup on drone which was clearing the liquid surfaces. Basically, it was given the work order by PCMC, not following the tender process, but there is some other process that we have followed. He was successful, he got more orders, and today he is one of the leading, within 4 years, he has become one of the leading suppliers to defense or surveillance. So giving that opportunity is possible. So exponential, this particular part about talent, technology, and trust is very sort of critical. The other thing that I worry about India, and there are some others, I will not have time to go into that, I have written separately about it and elaborated quite a lot, is about the degrowth that can take place. See, we talk about India at 75, we are very proud. But we need to worry about Bharat at 75. What is Bharat at 75? 70% still in villages. Government statistics show that in urban areas, 1 out of 6 is in slums, Jubilees. Government statistics shows that 1 out of 4 is below the poverty line, and after COVID it has become less. That is our problem. And therefore, if that difference keeps on increasing, we have a challenge. Inequality is a sure way of getting into social disharmony and the rest goes. And that's why I'm very happy to see a lot of the scheme that you have launched, how they are trying to sort of reduce that inequality. Now, in order to make it clear as to what is India at 75 and Bharat at 75, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, I'm president of this Swarupooradi, which looks at education of the poor and so on. It's, I'm the vice president who is Uday Gujar. He brought his grandson to me. He's just 8-year-old during COVID time. And he said, we have a problem with this boy. So I said, what is the problem? He said, he knows everything. I said, how can that be a problem if he knows everything? So I said, sit down. What's your favorite subject? He said, all subjects. Very confident boy, 8 years. So, because it was COVID time, I said, let's talk about biology. I said, what is the difference between bacteria and virus? Perfect answer. Then I raised the bar. I said, I've heard something about mutation. What is it? Perfect answer. 8-year-old boy. Then I raised the bar further. I said, what is spike protein? Almost 70-80% correct. Then we went into DNA. And I had on this iPad a photograph of my having a breakfast with Watson. Watson was the Nobel laureate. Watson and Crick got the Nobel Prize for finding the structure of DNA, as you know, the double helix structure. I said, who is he? He couldn't recognize. So I said, he's Watson and stuck in the answer. Watson and Crick. And as you know, there was a third scientist who should have got the Nobel Prize. That way, he mentioned her name and said she should have got. 8-year-old, how does he know that? Then I said, tell me, who is the scientist who has got 2 Nobel Prizes? Immediately, Madam B, including the year. I said, no, Linus Pauling also got 2. He said, no, the first one was for science, the second one was for peace. 8-year-old. And has not gone to school for 1 year because of COVID. So I asked his grandfather and father, you are not scientist, how come he knows so much? He said, we have trusted him and have given him Google, full access. Then I alerted his father that he is using his brain as a storage. He has to use it as an intelligent processor, and that's why he will need a Google. In the same week, you know, I get another news. So here is young boy just flying because he got the access. Shraddha Kaur, a 15-year-old girl in a village near Satara, commits suicide. Why? She couldn't give the online exam. Why? Because she did not have access to online learning. Why? Because her father and mother were so poor that they could not give it. So here is this boy, India at 75, flying, and here is this girl, which is no more, because she belongs to Bharat. This is not tenable. This is not tenable. And we have to do something. And for that, I think we have to look at a new alternative, which is giving access equality despite income equality. Now, how do you do access equality despite income equality? Can you do the magic? For example, an electrocardiogram takes, let us say, 500 rupees. Can you do it in 5 rupees? Looks impossible. Then mother's health has to be monitored, pregnant mothers. All right. How do you monitor it on 1 rupee per day? Looks impossible. Breast cancer. You have to do mammography and so on, so on. You have to spend a large amount of money, etc. Can you do it just for $1? Looks impossible. All right. Hemoglobin. Takes 150, 200 rupees to find out. Can you do it in 5 rupees? Looks impossible. But all that impossible has been made possible in India, right here. In my mother's name, I have created what is called as a Panjim Gymkhana Inclusive Innovation. Inclusive innovation. You know, I used to leave whatever money I had with her whenever I came to Pune. Every weekend I used to come because I used to be in the research lab. And I have this habit of carrying cash, I used to give it to her. We never asked her what she did. But on the last day, after she passed away, I remember Shruti, my daughter, was checking and she found all that money there, saying that don't forget our roots. Help those who are doing science for the poor. And I created this foundation. That foundation was, and that foundation what it does is that there are two things we do. Making high technology work for the rich, very easy. Making low technology work for the poor, very easy. Making high technology work for the poor, very difficult. We give awards to that. Secondly, we always go by best practice. I'm following best practice. You're then following. Create the next practice. All the awardees so far are following the next practice. And all this time, I'll take, like a magician, I'll take something. You know, we talked about ECG. What happens? You go there, lie, 12 lead, half an hour, nurse comes, print out. There is a portable ECG. What you have is a portable ECG. This is today in 12 countries. More than 25 lakhs have been sold. It just costs 4,000 rupees. So per ECG, if you say that it's 100 cost, it will not be even 5 rupees. How do you operate it? You put your two thumbs here for 15 seconds. There is a sensor here. This is your heart. 15 seconds. 15 seconds. And if you have downloaded an app called Sanket, all right, it can go to anyone. So imagine now, an old lady in a village, she has pain in the middle of the night, all right, and you have to take her to get her ECG. You don't have to put her in a bullock cart or a motorcycle or a jeep and go several kilometers. You can do it from where you are. Provided connectivity is sort of available, which now sort of we are providing. Can you just imagine what difference it can make? And this is, by the way, US FDA certified, CE certified, and so on and so forth. It is absolutely. I talked about the mother. There is this Senthil whose sister was pregnant. She was in a village. She used to go several kilometers to do her monthly checkups. He's a genius. He created this IoT sensitive system, which she wears. And also AI enabled. And it can do 7 parameters with great sort of accuracy. And data goes into the cloud, it is monitored remotely, etc. And just 1,000 rupees for 1,000 days for her as well as the child. It is going to hundreds of villages now, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra. In Andhra Pradesh now they made it mandatory for villages. And you can see what difference it makes. All right. Now, the most important, I want to congratulate you, sir, for this, the breast cancer, that $1. In fact, I showed it to you in the morning. I didn't want to carry it because that could not fit in my pocket, actually. So this is something that you just move around with this. You don't have to do anything subject to radiation, nothing, absolutely. And within 5 minutes you get to know. And I must applaud you that Goa government took this up. This is called iBreast, okay? And